Some people's greed knows no boundaries. In their desperation to cling to what rightfully belongs to you, they orchestrated a symbolic death, complete with flowers, tears, and perhaps even a few badly delivered eulogies. All of it, a calculated illusion, designed to keep your assets out of your hands. Even seasoned legal professionals, battle-worn and sharp-eyed, were left stunned by the sheer boldness of this deception. Your own attorneys, people who've seen every underhanded trick in the book, were left speechless as they uncovered the extent of the charade. From forged paperwork to the meticulously staged memorial service, the effort poured into this performance was staggering, all to maintain control of something that never belonged to them in the first place. While they were busy casting themselves as mourners in a fantasy where you no longer existed, they never imagined you'd rise, very much alive, and expose their production for the fraud it was. Now the very money they fought so hard to conceal is slipping through their fingers as they're forced to justify their performance to some very serious authorities. But here's what you need to remember. This wasn't random. You weren't targeted by accident. You were chosen by design. History has shown us that those marked with divine purpose always attract fierce opposition. Moses was hunted as a baby. Joseph was betrayed and sold by his own brothers. And visionaries through time have been exiled, imprisoned, discredited, or in your case, declared dead while still breathing. And yet, like all of them, you endure, not because you're lucky, but because you're called. The magnitude of the attack against you speaks directly to the magnitude of your purpose. They would never have gone to such outrageous lengths if you were insignificant. They wouldn't have forged documents or staged mourning if you were just another face in the crowd. The universe is built on perfect balance. The higher your calling, the more intense the resistance, the brighter your light shines, the more desperate the darkness becomes to snuff it out. But darkness cannot truly comprehend the light. It can only react to it. And the deepest wounds always come from those closest to us. Betrayal by a stranger stings, but betrayal by family transforms you. What makes your situation so painfully unique is just how close the betrayal was. These weren't random outsiders, but people who shared holiday dinners with you, who knew your childhood stories, who once held your hand through hard times, even as they secretly plotted your fictional demise. The scheme required an elaborate network of participants, each playing their own distinct part. At the core was the mastermind, likely driven by a mix of greed and a deep-seated need for control. Surrounding them were enablers, people who may have had their doubts, yet still chose money over moral integrity. Then there were the silent witnesses, those who sensed something was off but preferred to turn a blind eye rather than risk confrontation. There were even unwitting accomplices, funeral directors, newspaper staff, and perhaps even religious leaders, fooled into participating in a memorial for someone still very much alive. Family systems often go to extreme lengths to protect themselves. When dysfunction runs deep, a family will do whatever it takes to maintain its fragile equilibrium, even if that means silencing the truth teller, even if that means erasing you, at least on paper. But what they fail to understand is that genuine bonds can't be cut by legal paperwork, and your true essence cannot be erased by a eulogy or a fake death certificate. The very plan designed to erase you has instead highlighted your existence in bold, universal ink. What you've endured isn't just about stolen money, it's about identity, legacy, and above all, the power to control your own story. And now that power is back in your hands. Evidence never lies, people do, but their lies always leave a trail. Your lawyer has meticulously assembled the paper trail, and it reveals a story stranger than fiction. It started with groundwork, medical records hinting at mental instability or addiction, convenient stories to explain your sudden absence or supposed incapacity to handle your affairs. Then came power of attorney documents, signed with your name but not your signature, notarized by either co-conspirators or officials duped into thinking you'd actually signed. Financial records show a methodical draining of accounts, suspicious transfers, and assets liquidated and shuffled, all under the pretense of managing your estate. But their most audacious move came when people started asking questions. Where is this person? Can we speak with them directly? Instead of backing down, they doubled down. They invented your death, a fabricated death certificate with a plausible cause, an obituary crafted with just enough personal details to sound convincing, funeral programs printed with your picture, maybe using an old photo to avoid suspicion, guest books filled with names of mourners who became unwitting actors in the deception. They turned you into a ghost while you were still walking this earth. But paper can be destroyed, lies eventually fall apart, and the truth is fireproof. The lawyer now sees the entire picture, piecing it together document by document. Each forged signature carefully scrutinized by experts, each fraudulent filing placed in the precise timeline, and every money transfer followed right back to their accounts. The trail of money always reveals the truth. The wealth they tried so desperately to keep from you isn't just financial gain, it's energy, it's potential, it's the very fuel intended to propel your divine purpose forward. These resources weren't a random windfall, they were specifically allocated by the universe for your journey, whether through an inheritance left by someone who saw your value, a trust meant to support your unique vision, property to give you a foundation, or investments intended to multiply for your mission. Every asset was meant to empower you. The scale of what they tried to steal is a mirror of the scale of what you're meant to create. Money is more than currency, it's an amplifier of intention. In the wrong hands, it amplifies corruption and darkness. But in the right hands, your hands, it becomes a force for healing, for transformation, for purpose. On some level, they sensed this. They realized that if these resources reached you, you would use them to create real change, perhaps even disrupt systems they themselves benefit from. That's why they engineered, not just a theft, but an entire eraser of your existence on paper. But there is always a moment, a single pivotal point, when the momentum shifts, when lies lose their grip, and the truth finally finds its footing. For you, that moment arrived when your lawyer asked one simple question: can I speak with them directly? Such a straightforward request, so reasonable, just to hear your wishes firsthand, before making any decisions about your assets. But for those who had constructed their palace of deception, this one question was devastating. It demanded a confession, or a desperate escalation. They chose escalation. Instead of admitting their scheme, they claimed you were dead. It was a last-ditch, panicked move, the final play of someone who had run out of options. But in making that choice, they sealed their own fate. Truth can be delayed, but it cannot be buried forever, especially when the universe is conspiring to reveal it. The lawyer who wouldn't accept convenient stories, the bank employee who noticed irregular transactions, the distant relative who remembered seeing you recently, the public records that didn't match the false death certificate, the inconsistencies in their stories that only grew with every retelling. Little by little, cracks appeared in their facade, then grew, until the entire structure of lies came crashing down. Now what was hidden is brought to light. What was whispered is now shouted from the rooftops. Everything done in darkness is illuminated with undeniable clarity. That is the very nature of truth. It does not bargain, it does not compromise. When the moment comes, it emerges, unstoppable like the rising dawn. Quick pause, family. If this message is resonating with your soul, and you'd like to support this sacred work, you can buy me a coffee. It helps keep this space flowing with truth, light, and divine clarity. Link is in the description, and if you're still with me, drop the number 88 in the comments to let me know. Now let's keep going. The legal system, with all its complexities and flaws, has unexpectedly become the very tool of your vindication. The same institutions and structures that were twisted and manipulated to erase your existence have now turned on those who tried to use them as weapons. The charges are stacking up: fraud, not just in one place, but across multiple jurisdictions, the forgery of official documents, including the chilling fabrication of your death certificate, and a level of identity theft so profound, it aimed not only to take your assets, but to erase your very being from the record. On top of this is grand larceny, not just the theft of money or property, but the audacious theft of your identity and legacy itself. It's a sprawling conspiracy, with multiple players coordinating in deception and cover-up, each person playing their role in a web of calculated betrayal. Your attorney, who began as a cautious investigator, has now become your fiercest advocate. The disbelief that once colored their early review of the evidence has shifted into unwavering determination, and shock has evolved into a sharp, relentless legal strategy. Every piece of evidence is being meticulously preserved. Witnesses are being tracked down and formally deposed, their testimonies adding weight to the growing case. Financial accounts tied to the fraud are being frozen, cutting off access and preventing any further movement of assets. Once the machinery of justice is activated, it's a force that is difficult, if not impossible, to halt. For those who masterminded this elaborate scheme to fake your death and steal your life, the horizon is now darkened by real, life-altering consequences. Criminal charges loom, each one carrying the possibility of lengthy prison sentences. Civil penalties will not only require restitution, but may also strip away everything they thought they had secured, even assets unrelated to the original theft. For those professionals, lawyers, notaries, or officials who used their positions to abet the fraud, there are professional consequences: loss of credentials, public disgrace, and the potential end of their careers. As the truth emerges, the social consequences multiply, and their deception becomes a matter of public record, forever attached to their names. The universe always moves toward perfect balance. What they attempted to do to you will inevitably be returned to them, not out of vengeance, but as a restoration of cosmic equilibrium. You don't have to pursue this justice with hatred or anger in your heart. The wheels have already been set in motion. The very forces they tried to use against you are now delivering accountability, and you need only stand firm in your truth and witness the unfolding of universal law as it brings completion to what your courage and discovery set in motion. It's important to recognize a fundamental pattern. When the guilty are cornered, they rarely admit wrongdoing. Instead, they escalate. And in your case, this principle played out with startling intensity. When first questioned about your whereabouts, those involved faced a stark choice: confess or double down. They chose the path of escalation. Not content with saying you were simply unavailable or out of reach, they declared you dead, completely gone, buried, and beyond the reach of any further inquiry. It was the ultimate act of erasure, a last-ditch attempt to silence all questions and close the door on any investigation. After all, who would continue searching for financial answers or pursuing legal action on behalf of someone officially listed as deceased? But ironically, the same desperate escalation became the very rope that unraveled their scheme. The lawyer's straightforward request to speak with you about certain financial transfers triggered a wave of panic that set off a chain reaction. Funeral programs suddenly appeared. Death notices popped up in newspapers, and perhaps, somewhere, even a casket was staged to sell the illusion. All these actions, hastily executed because they couldn't produce you, were built on the hope that the entire fragile house of cards would collapse if you ever appeared in person. So they sought to make your appearance impossible, not by physically harming you, but by enacting a bureaucratic execution so complete that no one would think to question it. However, their frantic efforts only amplified the cracks in their own story. The funeral director who wondered about the missing body, the inconsistencies in the forged death certificate, the ongoing activity in accounts that should have been dormant if you were truly gone. Every cover-up became another thread unraveling their lies. And now the very web they spun is the evidence leading to their downfall. Their attempt to close the book on any further questions, to create what they believed was an airtight and final end to your story, instead burst open a floodgate of deeper and more relentless investigations. What started as a simple financial inquiry soon transformed into a sprawling criminal investigation. In their desperate push to maintain their fabricated reality, they left behind evidence of intent and coordination so obvious that no defense attorney could possibly dismiss it as mere misunderstanding. What might have once been explained away as financial mismanagement or innocent error quickly became clear, calculated and documented premeditated fraud, leaving a trail that could not be ignored or covered up. The universe, as always, operates with perfect timing. Had these individuals chosen honesty when first confronted, the outcome might have been far less severe for them. Instead, by refusing to admit the truth and continuing to escalate their deception, they only dug their own graves while pretending to bury you. To uncover that people you trusted orchestrated your symbolic death is to experience a level of violation that goes beyond mere betrayal. It is an act of erasure. It's the ultimate message that your very existence was simply too inconvenient for their plans, that your life needed to be deleted from the script they were writing for their own benefit. The psychological and emotional impact of such a discovery runs deep and wide. The shock hits in waves. The realization that not only were you targeted, but that those closest to you built an elaborate conspiracy for personal gain. There's the overwhelming disorientation that comes from learning the reality you thought you knew was manipulated behind your back, orchestrated with stunning precision and malice. Then comes the grief, not for your own invented demise, but for the relationships you thought were real, for the trust you placed in those who were quietly plotting your exit. Anger rises up, sharp and necessary, toward those who tried to strip you from your own narrative. Paranoia can settle in as you wonder what else has been hidden from you, who else was involved, and how far the deception truly reaches. These feelings are not a sign of weakness or instability. They are the mind and spirit processing trauma that few people ever have to face. But even as these natural reactions surge through you, the path of healing slowly begins to reveal itself. True healing starts with a powerful realization: for all their efforts, for all the documents and public performances, they could not actually erase you. You are still here, breathing, thinking, feeling, and alive, in ways their schemes could never extinguish. No matter how many false signatures, how many forged death certificates, or how elaborate the funeral they staged, your existence, your consciousness, and your spirit remain untouched. There is profound power in that awareness. Your journey of healing will involve far more than simply recovering what was taken from you materially. It will require you to rebuild your sense of safety in the world and relearn how to trust, not with blind naivety, but with a hard-won wisdom that only experience can bring. You will need to establish boundaries that honor your true worth and value, boundaries that protect you from those who would seek to exploit or diminish you. Again, the most important realization is this: your innate value was never diminished by their actions. They could attempt to copy your signature, but never your soul. They could try to stage your death, but could never dictate your life. The lengths they went to in order to erase you are the strongest evidence of how much power they sensed in you, power that frightened them, power they longed for but could never possess. Healing in this context is not about forgetting the ordeal. It's about integrating what happened into your understanding of both human darkness and your own resilience. You survived a level of betrayal and psychological attack that would shatter many, and that's no coincidence. That's confirmation of your strength, your purpose, and your unique destiny. They tried to write your ending, but you now have the pen in hand to write your resurrection. Beyond the ongoing legal battles and financial restitution, a deeper and more profound restoration is unfolding: the reclamation of your story. This means taking back the narrative of who you are, where you have been, and where you are going. This journey begins with practical action, legally restoring your status among the living, correcting the official records, and systematically untangling the bureaucratic web that was spun to erase you from existence. Piece by piece you reclaim not just your assets, but your place in the world, and your right to your own narrative. Reclaiming your identity publicly is an essential first step in rewriting the story that others tried to author without your consent. It means reaching out to key people, institutions, and communities, letting them know that the rumors of your demise were not only exaggerated but entirely false. It's about showing up in spaces where you were erased, letting your presence speak for itself, and re-establishing your rightful place, both legally and socially. The process doesn't stop there. It extends to financial re-establishment, gaining back access to your accounts, reclaiming assets, and restoring the resources that were wrongfully taken from you. These practical victories are tangible milestones in your journey, but beneath them lies a much deeper transformation. The reclamation of your inner narrative. At the core of healing is the story you tell yourself about this experience. This chapter, as traumatic and outrageous as it has been, is yours to interpret. You alone get to decide its meaning. Was it merely a story of elaborate theft, or was it a sign of your significance, a testament to the fact that you were seen as powerful enough to become a target? Was it simply proof of how far human depravity can reach? Or does it stand as evidence of a greater protection at work in your life, an invisible force that ensured the truth would eventually come to light? The authority of interpretation now belongs to you, the true narrator of your life. No one else gets to shape this story anymore. This reclamation is not just about looking back at what was done to you. It is above all about how you move forward from here. Surviving a calculated erasure and emerging whole grants you a profound, unshakable sense of belonging. It confirms your right to exist, to take up space, and to thrive in a world that tried to make you invisible. Ironically, their effort to write you out of your own life story only elevated your significance, turning you into the central figure of a narrative far larger than they ever imagined. What was meant to destroy you has become the revelation of your true power and your capacity to endure. There is a greater cosmic purpose hidden within the pain and confusion you've experienced. The very qualities that made you a target, your authenticity, your natural gifts, your potential for impact, are the same qualities that will propel your comeback. Consider how the forces of nature operate. Intense pressure transforms carbon into diamonds, fire purifies and strengthens gold, storms force trees to develop deeper roots. You have endured all three: pressure, fire, and storm, and through it all, you have not been destroyed. Instead, you have been fundamentally transformed. This transformation is not about reinventing yourself, but about stepping more fully into who you were always meant to be. You now possess a deeper awareness of your own resilience, the ability to set clear boundaries, and an unbreakable recognition of your intrinsic worth. The pain and betrayal you've experienced can now serve as powerful fuel. Perhaps you'll choose to help others who have faced similar extraordinary betrayal. Maybe you'll work to reform the very systems that enabled such deception, or use your reclaimed resources to create something beautiful, something that could only have emerged from the crucible of this ordeal. Or perhaps your greatest act of purpose is simply to live your life fully, vibrantly, and unapologetically, as the ultimate living refutation of anyone's attempt to erase you. Whatever direction your life now takes, one thing is certain: you operate from a place of hard-earned, tested strength. This is not a theoretical resilience, but endurance proven by fire. You now move with the authority of someone who knows firsthand what they can survive, and that knowledge is power. That certainty cannot be taken away from you. No matter what happens in the future, there is a new purpose and perspective that only someone who has walked through such darkness can possess. As justice manifests and your resources return to your stewardship, know that this is more than just a restoration of what was lost. It is the fulfillment of what those resources were always meant to generate. The money, property, and assets coming back to you now are charged with a new energy. They carry the force of justice, the resonance of truth revealed, and the momentum of divine timing. These assets were always designated for your highest good, for your growth, and for your positive impact on the world. What was once an attempted theft is now revealed as nothing more than a detour, never the end of your story. Now, as these resources are finally restored to their rightful owner, they come with a multiplying effect. What might have once simply supported your day-to-day needs can now be the foundation for launching you into an even greater chapter, one marked by transformation, purpose, and the kind of victory that only those who have truly overcome can ever understand. The lawyer who uncovered the depths of deception now stands as a witness to the true meaning of justice fulfilled. With every day, more of the stolen pieces of your life are returned. Frozen accounts are being released back into your control. Property deeds once fraudulently reassigned are corrected and recorded with your rightful name, and trusts originally designed to support your well-being are now being managed exactly as they were meant to. The process is meticulous, requiring signatures, hearings, statements, and legal orders. Yet with every hurdle cleared, your world becomes whole again, and the web of lies that once trapped you loses all power. But while the restoration of assets is meaningful, it is the intangible restoration, the restoration of your spirit, your reputation, and the cosmic balance of justice that leaves the deepest mark. What you are witnessing is not just a legal or material resolution, but a return of order to a universe that cannot abide the triumph of falsehood over truth for long. The process has demanded patience and courage, but every setback and delay has only strengthened the final outcome. It is proof that while human systems may falter and justice may be postponed, the principles of universal law are relentless and unwavering. Truth, when aligned with the deeper flow of the cosmos, will always emerge victorious. You come out of this experience not merely with what was taken, but with an entirely new wealth, wisdom earned through adversity, strength forged in the fire of betrayal, and clarity that no comfort zone could ever provide. Money, property, and legal standing are all being returned, but far more significant is the deep knowing that you survived what was meant to be your undoing. What was carefully plotted as your fictional demise, a calculated eraser, has instead become the turning point of your authentic new beginning. From this moment forward, you carry an awareness of human darkness and deception, but also an unmistakable sense of the divine light that guided you through and would not let you be destroyed. This restoration brings a new kind of abundance, an abundance of certainty in yourself, abundance of purpose, abundance of knowing that you are held by something greater than circumstance or betrayal. You have seen how easily the world can spin stories, how people can orchestrate a false ending, and yet you have risen from the ashes, living out a resurrection that even your enemies cannot explain away. They held a funeral for someone who was never truly gone. Now you walk in the fullness of life, stepping back into the world as a living testimony to the power of truth, resilience, and divine timing. The return of your resources is more than financial settlement. It is a public acknowledgement of what you always deserved, a tangible sign of unseen forces working on your behalf. This moment marks a pivotal shift, not only for your personal story, but for every witness who sees what has been accomplished. Your journey becomes a beacon, a guidepost for others who may one day face similar darkness. You are proof that the story doesn't end with betrayal, and that cosmic justice has the final word. Reflect for a moment on the extraordinary sequence of events that led you here. Consider the specific lawyer who was assigned to your case, the particular questions they dared to ask, and the perfect timing of their discoveries. Reflect on the witnesses who chose to speak up, the strangers who provided evidence without even knowing how vital it would be, and the precise legal tools that existed just when you needed them. Every piece fell into place in a way that defies mere coincidence. This is what it looks like when the universe itself writes the script. You are standing in the center of a story so carefully orchestrated that only cosmic hands could have drawn its outline. This journey isn't just about refuting your enemies or retrieving your property. It is about reaffirming your unique role in a greater design. The universe did not simply restore what was lost. It used the ordeal to refine your gifts, strengthen your boundaries, and clarify your sense of mission. You are not the same person who began this journey. You are wiser, more grounded, and unshakably certain of your worth. The restoration of your assets is now paired with the restoration of your inner power and voice. You walk forward with an entirely new sense of authority, not just in the legal sense but in the spiritual sense. Your energy no longer fragmented, but unified and focused. You now operate with tested, proven strength. This isn't resilience in theory, but endurance proven in the trenches of real adversity. You know exactly what you can survive, because you have already survived it. You carry an authority that cannot be given by others and cannot be taken away. There is deep power in that certainty and purpose in the perspective you have gained. Justice manifests not just as a return of property, but as a restoration of your dignity, your narrative, and your right to shape your future. And now the resources returning to you carry an additional energy. They are charged with the momentum of truth's victory, with the resonance of justice finally served, and with the sacred timing of a universe that intervenes when all seems lost. What was intended only to support your daily existence now arrives with the potential to launch you forward, propelling your work, your vision, your legacy into a higher dimension. What might have been used just to get by is now multiplied, carrying the force of everything you have endured and overcome. This is the multiplication factor of grace, turning loss into gain, betrayal into blessing, and attempted erasure into a platform for your expansion. So as you step forward, understand that this is more than a conclusion. It is a cosmic revelation, a demonstration to you and the world of who you truly are, what you are capable of, and why you were chosen for this remarkable journey. You are now fully restored both in the eyes of the law and in the order of the universe. You are cosmically vindicated, stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable than ever before. The story that began with injustice ends not just in restoration, but in a resurrection that no one can deny. The universe has shown its hand, and you are the living proof that purpose, truth, and divine timing always win. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm, to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work,